Well, that didn't suck. Well, that didn't suck.
All right, let's talk about someone who had more guts than most of us put together. Joseph Howe. Ever heard of him? No? Good. That's why you're here. So picture this. You got a dream. Not TikTok famous or crypto millionaire. No, you want to run a newspaper because it's 1835 and they haven't invented electricity yet, let alone phone chargers. Yeah, I know, wild. But for Joseph Howe, this was his thing. He wanted to tell people the truth, to shine a light on the corrupt, and make sure the people in charge weren't robbing the rest of us blind.
That's a snippet of a new YouTube series. It's called, Well, That Didn't Suck, and it's all about Canadian history. In that YouTube series, Christopher Dummitt is trying to change the way we view Canadian history, make it more appealing, perhaps, for the next generation. Christopher Dummitt's on the line. He's a historian out from Trent University, also a columnist over at the National Post. Welcome to the show, Christopher.
Thanks for having me.
So, how did this come about? Where did you get the idea that, hey, something's got to be done here to make history, I don't know, more fun?
Well, it's certainly a good moment right now. I think a lot of Canadians have been discovering over the last few months that, hey, maybe it's something that we should focus on what we have in common. But I don't know. For me, when people tell me I have to care about Canadian history, I always treated it as someone telling me I ought to eat my vegetables, which is the way I like to eat vegetables. But someone tells me I eat them, I don't want them. And I start from the premise, we got to have great stories, great history, and if those stories are Canadian, so much the better. And that was kind of the goal of the series, to just tell great stories. They're about Canada, but that's sort of secondary, and then we just come to appreciate this great story like we have of Joseph Howe in the first episode.
So how did you pick the stories? And by the way, yesterday I watched the first episode on Joseph Howe, and I'm ashamed to say I didn't know all the details that I learned while watching the YouTube piece, the first episode. So how did you choose those stories?
Joseph Howe has got to be my favorite Canadian guy. He's a poet, a politician. He's a guy who came to know his Nova Scotia by going all around all the towns and having drinks with the locals because he needed to collect money for a subscription for his newspaper, and then he later goes into politics. But there's this great story in 1835 where he exposes the corruption of the kind of political figures at the top of society, and then he faces incredible consequences for doing it. He's charged with seditious libel, and he could lose anything. And he does what seems to be the stupidest thing possible. He decides to defend himself because no lawyer would take his case. But it's a great story because in the end he wins. And he kind of helps us establish press freedom in Canada and the whole British Empire. It's just a great story.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of the other stories you're going to tell. You're going to tell a story in your fourth episode on Canada's path to democracy. You're also going to be looking at in episode 3. It's called Birth by Fire. A look at Lord Elgin. Tell us a little bit more about that story.
Well, that's one of my other great favorite stories in your own city, Montreal, where a mob burned down Parliament, and you got this guy, British Lord Elgin. He's sort of stuck in this place. What does he do? Does he give in to the mob, but then that would kind of destroy Canadian democracy, or does he hold out and let Canada's Parliament, who is doing this incredibly unpopular thing, which is sort of paying back money to people many considered rebels and traitors. But the bill been passed by Canada's Parliament, which had just won responsible government, and he holds out, and it's really the birthplace of Canadian democracy, and so few people know this great story.
So you're trying to share these stories. You're trying to connect with the younger audience. YouTube is the place, by the way. This is the perfect platform, right, to do this. But how do you get it done, right? And by the way, you are a great narrator. You are engaging. I can see why you're fantastic, probably at the front of a classroom as well. But what are some of the other things you do in order to get this project something that someone will want to sit down and watch?
Well, we were lucky to get a really generous donation to the university that said they want to support Canadian history, and they left it wide open. And we thought, okay, what are we going to do? And we thought YouTube series. And so luckily I'm working with a great production company. It's not just me. It's a whole team of people who are saying, how do you take what's a good story, but then how do you introduce all these incredible AI effects, these things that are it's really a Hollywood type production level as far as I can tell, but it's done, at a kind of reasonable cost. So I think that really helps to get it out there. And, you can only control so much. You got to tell great stories, tell them in interesting ways, and then just hope people, find them. And we're going to continue doing the series for a while, so people will have a chance to find it and hopefully love what we're doing.
We're with Christopher Dummitt, historian, also columnist at the National Post, and he's from Trent University, and Trent University has this new project called, Well, That Didn't Suck, taking a look at great stories in Canadian history. Why do you think it is, Christopher, that as a nation, it doesn't seem like we've ever been that proud, or that we've never really told her? And I know there's been examples like the Canadian history moments that were on TV and that kind of thing, but it certainly seems we don't do as good of a job as some other countries on celebrating our history. Why do you think that is?
No, we don't. I mean, it's a complicated story, and I don't have time to write an essay with you about it, but I guess I just say I think we're actually at an interesting moment, and that's what this last election, the whole rise of Trump, has sort of shown, that kind of across partisan divisions, the one thing that was clear is that people agreed that it mattered what we had in common. And I've been struck by the last 5 years or so, whenever Canadian history came up, it was always in ways that divided us, that we were fighting over statues and names, and I got tired of as much as that can be interesting, I feel like what this moment gave us is an opportunity to say, what do we have in common? What are the great stories that bring us together as opposed to divide us?
So, what's the schedule like? How many episodes do you think you're going to do over the course?
Well, we've got 4 that are going to come out over the next month and a half, and then we're going to get back into the studio and make some more later in the summer.
Listen, I'll be watching. I've already subscribed, and you know how you do that on the videos nowadays, and you do it quite well at the end of your video. Follow, like, subscribe, all that stuff. I encourage our listeners to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Thanks so much.
All right, that's Dr. Christopher Dummitt, historian from Trent University. The YouTube channel is called Well, That Didn't Suck, and it's a great look at Canadian history.